A very warm welcome to this panel discussion. The topic for the discussion today is finding the next business frontiers faster. And before I introduce the panel to you, I want to just give you a little bit of a background on the current scenario. So before any further ado, let me begin by saying that the COVID-19 pandemic has made organizations cope with a fast changing external environment. It has also been an opportunity for them to find organizations' strengths using technology and shape solutions for the new normal. And in today's roundtable, we have with us senior leaders from 4 unique sectors who will speak about how they unearthed new business frontiers in these challenging circumstances, but using technology. And to introduce the panel, we have with us Manish Mittal, who is the Managing Principal India Extria. We have Jayati Mirji, who is the VP Technology at TeamLease, Vijay Sivaram, who is the CEO of Quest IT Staffing at Quest Corp, Mani Rangarajan, Group COO at Elara Technologies, and Mitesh Agarwal, who is the Head of Customer Engineering at Google Cloud India. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today on this panel. I want to begin by posing this question to all of you on the panel in terms of how business cycles have evolved amid this pandemic. We've been seeing a lot of volatility kicking out there. And for each of your respective businesses, I want to understand how you all have evolved and how your entire business model has really evolved amid this pandemic. I want to begin with you, Mani, to understand what your perspective is on this entire issue.
Good afternoon, everyone, and Priya and your story. Thank you so much for having me on the show. So Elara Technologies comprises 2 businesses. So one is the online marketplace business, which is Housing.com and Makan.com in the real estate space. And here consumers can come in to buy or to sell or rent their homes. And the second is PropTiger, which is one of India's largest offline brokerages. At the start of the pandemic, there were a lot of naysayers about real estate, both in terms of the consumer's willingness to buy real estate, and second is of the way to sell real estate, right? Given that there's an ongoing pandemic. On the consumer sentiment towards real estate, we've surprisingly seen a massive turnaround of sorts. And these are due to a couple of reasons. So first is it's a mortgage enabling regime with low interest rates. Second is that given the volatility that people have seen in the stock market and in gold, people find that home is the most secure place to live in, and it's the most secure asset class. And also from the user's perspective, one of the new use cases that we have never focused on is the fact that users felt that their own home is the safest place to live in during the pandemic, right? So that brought about like a change in sentiment, and you had a lot more people come forward to buy real estate. The second is also the whole working from home and corporates encouraging a hybrid, working from home and coming into work for a couple of days kind of scenario. So what this has done is this has helped newer micro markets emerge. So people are now willing to move to the peripheral areas of the city. And we've also seen a massive increase in demand in tier 2 cities and tier 3 cities, right? So on the consumer sentiment survey, I would say that the resurgence in real estate is well on its way. The second thing is on the business side, right? So how do people buy real estate during this time of pandemic? And there we have seen a massive change in people's outlook towards digitization. We've also already seen a massive change in outlook on the part of consumers because India was digitizing very quickly and the pace of digitization just accelerated. But on the part of people who are major players in the ecosystem, which is developers, the realtors or brokers, agents, whatever you call it, and the owners, all of them came forward to embrace digitization and also facilitated the use of technology, which really enabled people to experience the whole process of visiting a site or visiting an apartment virtually, and in some cases, even completing a transaction online. So just to give you an example, we launched a platform called PropTiger Direct. So PropTiger Direct is an online platform where people can come in and look at video shoots of projects or apartments, come in, look at webinars, look at videos, and also have real-time WhatsApp chat and or a video call with our salespeople and the developers' salespeople. And in the month of July, about 15% of the closures that we did in PropTiger, meaning 15% of the homes sold in PropTiger, was directly through the platform, right? So from 0% pre-pandemic to about 15% shows a massive swing, right? And even on the housing.com side, on the platform side, we have seen people come forward and embrace digitization rapidly. We have seen brokers buy products which facilitated like virtual tours where they could showcase the property to, let's say, 10 or 12 people at a time on a real-time video session and answer questions around it, right? So it was in fact very
Right.
surprising to us that even the smaller broker would come forward and use these tools. So in all, I think we have seen a paradigm shift in real estate, and I think this is only going to accelerate and continue further.
Right. I want to bring in Manish out here to talk to you about how the whole, global life sciences space has evolved over the last couple of months. You've been primarily having a whole suite of sales focused products. So tell us a little bit about how this entire space has really evolved.
Thanks, Priya, and thanks for the opportunity and your story here. So this was something that we were looking at it from a pandemic perspective, but we were also looking at it before the pandemic. So if you look at it, Extria's business, we are at the crossings or the cusp of life sciences, data analytics, and cloud software. We are in the business of providing cloud software and data analytics to life sciences companies. We help them help commercialize their products and bring it to their customers, and also help them identify the patients. Now, in this whole journey, what we saw was that this whole traditional and digital channels are coming together, and that allows us to go for a huge transformational help to our clients. And we saw a big growth happening. So XTI started about 10 years back, and since then we've been growing almost like 30 to 50%. And pandemic times saw that we grew even more than 50%. And that has been one of the biggest thing that we saw, that in this life sciences industry, while certain things were not happening, like medical devices, there was a big kind of a hit for some time, but the traditional life sciences and the pharmaceutical companies are still doing very well. And this whole journey of them to take data to the cloud, or the whole digitization, was really took a new accelerated pace. And that was something which was we have been trying to do that over the last many years, but pandemic really enabled that. So in that sense, for an organization like Extria, which is really helping transform clients and take them in their data-driven digital transformation, really saw a big surge. And that really we see that going forward, now that is more of an irreversible change, and more life sciences companies in the healthcare industry would be adopting towards it. So in a way that, if you look at it, life sciences companies, they are very innovative. They come out with the new products, and previously there was a lot of focus on the fact that the new products were coming through the chemistry and the biology, and now there's a lot more software in developing those products that comes out for us in the market. So overall, this whole digital transformation, and I would say data-driven digital transformation, has been a big, I would say, a big change that we have seen in the pandemic times, and that has allowed all the products, all the services around that to be really accelerated in that sense.
Right. Moving on to both the players who are in the staffing space, I want to bring in both QuestCorp as well as TeamLease into this conversation. Let me begin with you, Vijay, to ask you a little bit about how the journey has been over the last couple of months in terms of business evolution What kind of changes have you witnessed?
First and foremost, thank you, Priya, for getting us all together and your story too. Absolutely bang on. If you look at Quest Corp today, as an organization which we operate in the business services space, we house India's largest employment base, close to around 350,000 plus people. So when the pandemic hit, you can imagine the three pivotal requirements: people, productivity, and technology were all displaced, right? And obviously, being in that space, in the ability to hire, manage, and retain talent, build productivity for them and the tech for them, all were in different formats of challenges. And I think what has happened in the pandemic is being able to figure out how people could work in different formats, whether it's work from home, whether it's work hybrid, or whether it's back to office, and in what protection scenarios. Second is also on productivity. How do we ensure that, and as employees were used to being physically supervised or physically involved in an infrastructure that could take care of various support systems, suddenly you have them at home. How do you build in those productive metrics and productive systems that help them gain them? And also the technology that circumferences around where the data flows in, where the data flows out, where the structural infrastructure is required to ensure that they have a smooth operating day. All that came into play, and I think that's where Quest picked up on and built these processes in place to ensure that at no point of time, neither as the customer or neither as the employee himself or herself, or the cash required to run the business is at stake. So I think that's what the pandemic's taught us, to make sure that the people, the productivity, and the technology is in place at all times and keeps improving.
Right, Jaydeep, do you want to add to that?
Thanks, Priya, for setting this up. See, basically, I know we all are aware that what was the situation last year, and even some part of this year, what was the situation. Regardless of that, in spite of that, I think the staffing organization, by and large, in one sense, represents the economy of India, right? So we cut across so many customers and industrial verticals that we, in one sense, and also geographically so diverse, that we represent economy of India. So what has happened, at least in spite of all the things that have happened, and the trend right now shows that we are heading up, right, upwards, in upward direction, right? But in addition to that, what has happened is, in the last couple of years, the formal employment in India grew robustly in spite of that, right? On the back of major policy reforms, of course, of the government. And combined with that, the ongoing situation has actually, put pressure on the digitalization. And there is a surge in the demand for digital products that can support formalization process and help declutter some of the cumbersome processes, right? Many of our customers who are, hesitant to adopt technology because, of the employment sector that we are in, right? So now they are requesting us with a very, very superficial, very advanced technology features as well, right? So another point, I think most of us actually will be able to connect, right? So most of the organizations' digital strategy evolves mostly inorganically, right? Not planned or anything, right? We have now an opportunity right now, and we have, I think, from TeamLease, we are actually making sure we put a conscious effort in making that happen, in plan properly and execute those digital strategies, right? So, see, TeamLease is already a technology-enabled company, but now it is working very extensively towards becoming a technology-driven company, right? So we have a focus on employment, employability, and ease of doing business. That are the 3 E mantras that we have, right? So on a high level, in TeamLease, we have 2 focus areas, right? One is our core technology platform. I'm a technology lead from TeamLease. So I'm talking about the technology right now. So, and another is the products and services that we offer for our customer, which are our SaaS products. The core services platform are the backbone for our business, right? It starts from hiring, onboarding process, a management of employee life cycle, automation of financial reconciliations, financial processes, service delivery processes, statutory compliance processes, right? Learning management. These are the various platforms that manage the employee life cycle from hire to retire, right? Including the PF trust that we have. The technology evolution in this area to make sure that we resolve all customer problems through digitalization is a very important focus for us. In addition to that, as I mentioned, we also have another focus, which is our portfolio of SaaS products, where we have developed a digital workforce solutions that offer some of our most critical challenges faced in our workforce management. It's an integrated platform that helps teams to adopt, evolve, and scale by working more effectively and efficiently, right? So ranging from solutions like time management, attendance management, expense management, learning platform, performance management platform, including even hyper specialized sales and field force management, lead and order management. These are the various product suites that we have developed. The evolution of those things got accelerated during the last 1 year because we got the opportunities, we got the inputs, we got the sign off from the clients that they are ready to invest in us in terms of adopting our technologies. So that has helped us a lot in identifying what is my focus area and how we can leverage technology to actually improve our business processes, serve our customers better, and evolve our products in much extensive manner. One last point, while we are doing that, we are actually taking help of the leading edge technology elements like AI, machine learning, face recognition software, OCR software. So these are the various tools that we are using so that whatever is the type of the end user, right? So we have varied employment diversity within our organization. The associates come from various backgrounds. So it is ease of use for them is really, really important for us. So using these technologies to simplify the life for our end users, including the clients and associate, becomes paramount priority for us. So that is the approach that we are taking right now.
Right. I want to bring in Mitesh very quickly out here to understand how clients or customers out there should be using technology to really gain from better customer insights. I'm sure you are talking to several companies out there to understand how technology can be leveraged to their benefit. So if you could give us some color on this.
Sure. Thank you, Priya, and thank you to all the panelists. Thanks to your story as well for the opportunity. I think, at Google and Google Cloud, we've looked at organizations over the last maybe 20 odd years. And obviously the last 18 months have been like phenomenally different from the prior 18 years. And we've worked with customers essentially on two areas, right? Like if you really look at it, most customers would come to Google and Google Cloud and say, how can we innovate? How can we transform? Right? How can we make things significantly better for our customers, for our employees, or what can we do very, very differently out there in the market? So therefore, we focused on three broad areas when we look at this, Priya. The first one is how can Google help with organizational and cultural transformation, especially when you are in these times, and all the panelists very rightly put their points out there. How have they embraced technology from being companies that use technology to become technology driven? Right. So, but that also means there is a cultural transformation and an organizational transformation required with your own workforce, with your own customers who perhaps were used to coming to your offices and meeting you, or you have your salespeople going and meeting them, and so on and so forth. So how do you now embrace all of this with the reality that is around us? How do you nurture a culture, for your workforce to operate in the new environment? So we've really spent years doing this. The platform and interface that we're using now, Google Meet, is an element of that. The way we've always worked at Google Cloud has been around this. The second part is that, therefore there is a demand for, best-in-class technology. And obviously cloud is a big lever there in terms of the ease at which everything has got democratized, right? It didn't matter whether you were a small player or a big player. Everybody now got access to the same set of technologies. Right. So how can you, allow your business the resilience required, the scale required, the security required, and all of that is something that Google Cloud can help you do. The third and final part of this discussion is how can you make better data-driven discussions? And I think all the panelists in some sense alluded to it, right? Essentially, if you want to really start making data-driven decisions at the speed of Twitter, for example, and you need means to execute intelligent automation with your teams, which really are human experts out there, how do we create and bring together these three areas: organizational and cultural transformation, the best-in-class technology using cloud, and data-driven decisions together. Then you create a very, very powerful condition, and that unleashes innovation and transformation. So this is what we've been doing with a number of customers across the board, whether they are global customers or whether in India, for example. We announced a very huge partnership with Reliance very recently, as you may have seen as part of their AGM, and that's a result of wanting to do something unique for India. Right? How do we bring in, and as you know, later in a very short time frame, we'll have the first 5G phone along with Geo, right? So very, very clearly, this is a question of what we can do for India at the scale that India requires.
Right. Mitesh, you really touched upon a lot of points that I want to talk about. And one of the points that I want to talk about is about data security as well as warehousing. And I want to bring you in here, Manish, to talk to you about the whole space in terms of data warehousing and how it's growing over this period and how important it is.
So if you look at it, Priya, data warehousing has been around for a long, long time. It's not something that which is have come off late. But what has really changed in the last couple of years has been the journey of data to the cloud. As Mitesh and other speakers have been talking about, this whole democratization of the cloud and the whole infrastructure being available, this data warehousing and this whole taking data to cloud, it started a journey where that this whole aspects of clients and enterprises becoming comfortable with the fact that the data can reside on the cloud, because there was a whole aspect of security, a whole aspect of privacy, and then there were all kind of data privacy laws coming in different countries, like whether it is HIPAA or CCPA in US, or whether it is GDPR in Europe, or each country is coming out with their own laws. But the good news there is that most of the providers, including Google, AWS, IBM, they all are providing those secure environments for taking data to the cloud. And that has allowed enterprises to feel comfortable taking data to the cloud and build their data lakes. They no longer are data warehouse in the traditional sense, because you're talking about structured, unstructured, any kind of a data which can be brought in and can be made available to the business owners or the business analyst without having to deep dive into the tech stack, but leverage this data for any kind of a business decision. And that has really evolved and is being, I would say, accelerated in the last 18 months or so. But this is something which is being now no more a taboo at the enterprise level, where if you just go on and talk about it, just even 5 years back, they were only talking about applications on cloud. But now data on cloud is just not a question mark anymore. It's just that how can organizations enable and get enabled to get there. And that's where, we being working in the life sciences industry, which is very, very regulated, very unique in the sense that very different set of customers, and how do you really find patients? That's what the business we are in. So for example, our product like Data Max, which is exclusively verticalized and meant only for life sciences industry, and help them in their journey to commercialize their products, and also in the process identify and ensure a better patient outcomes. And that is standard data, you can call it standard data warehouse or data lake available on cloud, because you already have them, maybe the data sources available, and you can just customize it and use it as a software as a service. So this is I would say, the whole transformation or data-driven digital transformation, I would call it, which has really happened and got accelerated in the last 18 months.
Right. I want to bring in Vijay here to try to understand how QuestCorp has made sense of the acquisitions that you all have done. At this point in time, you all have done a slew of acquisitions. I wanted to understand how you're using a technology to process that data and bring in better customer insights out there.
Very interesting question. We've completed over 22 acquisitions over the last few decades. And one of the reasons, historically, if you look at the M&A playbook, Priya, you would notice that they would have HR integrations. They would have, to a larger optimum value, of technology integrations and finance integrations. But I think the data integration is becoming one of the most important assets of any M&A today. And functionally, how data derives three things. One is, first and foremost, predictability. Knowing the company that you're acquiring in line with the business that you are in, how do you create a create predictable streams of revenue or predictable streams of business. Second is reporting, in the pure sense that when you're acquiring a new organization, you're acquiring an organization of different cultures, different data structures. So how do you ensure that your reporting mechanism falls in line? Because at the end of the day, today, world's global, more global than ever. And how do you ensure that data is real time at any point of time? And I think last but not the least, predominantly around the fundamentals of every business today is done through some format of a technology system. It could be an HRMS platform. It could be a payroll record. It could be anything with that. And that data integration becomes critical. So you ensure that as you acquire an organization and as you build your transformation programs together, you ensure that your basic fundamentals like compliances and information flows stay consistent through the system. So absolutely right. I think during M&As today, data integration is becoming a very, very critical aspect to just ensure that your reporting, your predictability and consistency stay the same.
Before I come to you, Mani, I want to bring in Mitesh out here to understand how a company should manage these multi-cloud environments, because considering, as Vijay rightly mentioned, that, it is challenging to bring together different businesses and put together data. So on the cloud front, how is it different and how do things change out there?
Well, that's a great question. And I think, as Vijay rightly pointed out, right, when you make acquisitions, especially the way you've made 22 acquisitions, as you said, right, it involves, therefore, this brings in complexity. At the end of the day, you also have to do integration. And it's worth noting that if you really look at the term multi-cloud, it means different things, depending on the persona that you talk to. For some customers, for example, multi-cloud refers to leveraging multiple public cloud technologies at once, right? Whereas others say that, look, if I use public cloud and my on-premise systems together, right, or the traditional non-cloud systems together, I'm still leveraging multiple public clouds and simultaneously operating on-prem, right? And all these are viable and all these are correct representations of multi-cloud. And therefore, what we've said as Google and Google Cloud is that, look, you adopt a strategy depending on your need for agility, how much you want to minimize vendor lock-in, which is extremely important, especially when you have to integrate. How do you want to take advantage of best-in-breed solutions? How do you want to improve your cost efficiencies? What's the flexibility you want? So if I really look at it, most organizations, when they look at multi-cloud, they're looking at it for growth. So for example, if it was for acquisitions, as Vijay mentioned, it was for growth, right, eventually. But at the same time, you don't want to be running multiple HR systems, as he said, right? You want to be able to, consolidate all of it. You want agility, that's why you wanted to, do a bunch of things. You want assurance that the systems will be available. You want your customer experience to be significantly better. And when you start looking at the tech part of it, your application developer will have a totally different expectation of multi-cloud, whereas your data operator will have a completely different, definition of multi-cloud and expectations for that. So what Google Cloud has done is that we have this very innovative product called Anthos, right, which really goes ahead and becomes a modern platform for both hybrid and multi-cloud environments. And we released this a couple of years back, and we have some fantastic, use cases around that. We have multiple banks in India, telecom, manufacturing, life sciences organizations who've really started using this so that they can freely choose where they want to deploy. Whether they want to deploy on Google Cloud, on-premise, or on any other public cloud, you should have the ability to manage it in a unified way, right? And what we feel is 90+% of the enterprises globally are going to go towards a multi-cloud strategy. And Anthos can really help you do that, because it's built upon open standards, right? Customers get the freedom of choice to chart their own cloud journey and their own transformation journey. So in our mind, multi-cloud and hybrid cloud is a reality, right? And we can help you do that with Anthos. And everybody spoke about data. We now have the capability, for example, to run a BigQuery capability also on multi-cloud. So you can go ahead and run your compute on a different cloud, but run BigQuery, for example, on Google. So these are capabilities that we are enabling for all customers so that you have the choice and freedom to go out there and transform and innovate. Back to you, Priya.
Right, interesting insight out there. I want to bring you in, Money, to try to understand a very important aspect of how products are built based on the customer habits that you see. So, what kind of products do you think, in your experience, should be built to ensure that customer habits are also taken into account and technology is used to, develop such products or strong products, as you may say?
Sure, that's a great question. See, we are a prop tech company, and we have technology firmly in our DNA. And even before the onset of the pandemic, we have seen the strong adoption of digital technologies in India. And I don't want to preach to the choir here, but India is the second largest base of internet users. And as you know, smartphone penetration is going to cross probably about 900 million over the next couple of years. So I think before we think about developing products, I think it's very, very important to keep in mind that when you build a technology, you should not build a technology which requires a market, right? You need to focus on the market which requires technology. In the other words, there's no point in building a plethora of solutions that nobody in the market is going to adopt. Of course, there will be early adopters, and we know about the whole product adoption cycle. So before the onset of digitization, one of the things that we thought about was that we wanted to improve the engagement levels. Typically, real estate, when it comes to even in a marketplace, is not a high level of engagement, does not have high levels of engagement. It's not like a Facebook or a Flipkart where you tend to make like multiple visits a month, right? It's a business where you come and look for a home when you want to rent a home or to buy a home, and then yeah, you come back to the funnel, the user funnel or the user journey right after a while. So we wanted to change all of that. If you look at companies across the world, such as Zillow in the real estate space in the US or Real Estate Australia, they always have a user hook, right? So they always have something that draws the users to them multiple times a month. In the case of Zillow, for example, this is Zestimate, which provides the estimate of your own home or homes in the neighborhood. And that's some sort of a vanity metric that people like to keep looking at multiple times a month. So before the onset of the pandemic, we decided that we would be launching a series of products under what we called as Housing Edge. So what Housing Edge does is it brings all the adjacent services associated with home buying or renting online. And the first in that set of products was digital home loans, which we had launched a few years ago. And that's still ongoing as a process because, as you know, home loans is a long journey. There's a lot of documentation involved, and it is getting digitized as we speak. But then we thought about a lot of user-facing products. The first product that we launched during the pandemic was PayRent. And that was an exceptional product market fit because people were stretched for finances during the time of the pandemic. And Parent has evolved beautifully. It's one of the we are one of the first players in the market to launch the product. And today I can say that on the platform we have about around 300,000 transactions being done every month. And more than that, it's a repeat usage product. So about 80% of people who come to pay rent on the on our platform tend to use the product every month, right? And along with pay rent, we introduced other products such as, for example, doing online rental agreements, doing tenant verifications, movers, packers, home services, interiors, legal services. So there's a whole suite of products where we want to bring all the adjacent services, all the associated industries associated with like home buying or renting online. And that worked out very, very beautifully. On the consumer side, this is what we did. On the customer side, what we wanted to do was we wanted to digitize the whole leads to cash process. Earlier way of doing it, was selling a product was to go to the office of the customer, take a printout of the term sheet or the agreement and have the customer sign it. But during the period of pandemic, we focused on two things. One is we focused on digitizing the term sheet or the customer agreement, and we focused on collecting online payments. And today I can say that even post the pandemic, right? I know we are not through the pandemic as yet, but post the second wave of the pandemic, about 95% of customers sign the documentation agreements online, and an equivalent percentage also ends up paying online, right? So we've saved a lot of time and cumbersome effort and made the whole leads to cash process very efficient and very, very seamless.
Right. I want to come to each of you to understand one key technology that has really, that you have leveraged the most over the past year. And I want to come to all of you panelists out there, beginning with Jaydeep, if you can quickly tell me which is the one technology that you've leveraged the most over the past year.
One of our key process that is in our business process is about onboarding an employer, right? So not just the core employees, but all our we onboard all our clients associates, right? That we deploy across India. So making that experience very easy for anybody to do it, which someone who may or may not have English knowledge or digital expertise, right, what's a critical thing for us, right? So simplification of process using technology was one of the key drivers for us, right? How simple, how can I actually pre-populate all the information that a particular employee needs to add? Just get some unique identifier, process it, right? How can I actually scan the documents with OCR technology, for example, extract information that is, and then present it so that the associate can actually modify it if it is necessary, right? And how can I actually validate somebody's bank details, that the details are for salary processing, the thousands of, we hire almost like thousands of associates in a month, right? And making sure all the information, including their bare minimum necessary information, in addition to that salary, bank details and all, how quickly I can give the feedback back to the end user using that technology. Integration with some of the service providers, some government services, to make sure that we pre-process the information and make that experience within few minutes, right? So we used to take, if you do manually, it will take few hours. Now the process is going to be less than 5 minutes, right? So I have to combine the multiple collaboration of technologies, whether it is OCR, integration with the API, integration with the third-party providers, API integration with the government exposed functionalities. So those are the ones that completely simplified the process, made the life of our associates easy, and hence improved the our onboarding process. Number of offers that we can do within a month or a day, in fact, has significantly improved, and the customers are excited about how quickly we can get people onboarded, right? And of course that eventually benefits their organization. So
Right.
the utilization of AI, machine learning, and OCR technologies, in addition to that, integration with the face recognition technologies, these are the ones accelerated our processes very quickly. That's on the front end. And the back end we have done knowledge management. We have tons of data, right, acquired from various years, using that information to make our judgments on where do we invest our technology roadmap. Those are the ones that we have helped us a lot in taking the right decisions.
Right, Manish, I want to come to you very quickly to ask you, which technology have you leveraged the most out there?
No, this is a very important question, because if you're looking at just taking our next question, which you talked about taking data to cloud. Now, in that concept, if you look at the whole data to cloud, the whole ingestion or validation, integration, and this has been the whole core that we have been working on our products. And and previously we never had a situation where software can have a data embedded into it to provide them the right insights. Now, in that sense, this whole adoption that we have seen is whole containerization, which is being becoming a very important aspect in our products, which is relatively new, and which is bringing out new ways in which all this pharmaceutical companies and life sciences companies, and I'm sure that other industries as well, because they can all leverage. But this whole concept of containerization and leveraging tech stack like Snowflake and all have really helped us moving forward in terms of taking this journey of data to cloud and building those data assets on the cloud. So this is a one emerging areas which has really taken a leap and accelerated the whole journey of building this data lakes on the clouds for us.
I want to come to you, Mitesh, to ask you, a closing comment on what this really means and how we can really leverage technology to achieve the final and the next business frontier. So just if you could summarize the entire conversation for us and give us some brief insights on what you feel is the way forward.
Sure, thank you. First of all, some great insights from Vijay, Jaideep, Manish, and Mani. Thank you for sharing those insights from a business perspective as well. I think the fundamentals are that digital is here to stay. It's no more. I mean, that's become the core. It's no more that digital is also a strategy. In my mind, in most of your organizations, digital is perhaps the strategy. So that's clearly something that came out. And obviously, cloud technologies, data, AI, ML, all of those that many of you mentioned are going to become very fundamental. The third part very clearly that came out is there is a massive, transformation required in the mindsets as well as to how we are approaching, the problem. Each of you have approached it very uniquely. And therefore, there's a subtle shift of you becoming a technology company yourself. Right, and many of you perhaps are building your own applications. Many of you are choosing multiple clouds. Manish mentioned towards the end, about using various data technologies, right? But eventually, the point is that you want insights out of those, so that your business, your customers, your experience for your customers becomes much, much better. Whether you're in life sciences, whether you're in real estate, or helping customers buy, real estate, or you're in, manpower services. The good news is that India's economy is going to massively grow, right? And I love what Jaideep and Vijay both said, that you're the barometer for really, looking at it. And all I can say is that, from a Google perspective, whether it's collaboration using Workspace, whether it's cloud technologies, whether it's data, AI, and ML, or multi-cloud, right? Any of those technologies, we are available. And of course, we've always been available from our advertising business, our search business, YouTube, Maps, all of these are fantastic technologies available to, all of you that we help to, collaborate with. So it's been fantastic to, hear all the participants. Thank you for that. Back to you, Priya.
All right. On that note, many thanks to all of you panelists for joining us for this very insightful panel discussion. I'm sure the audience has a lot of takeaways from this. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you so much for being a part of this very, very interesting chat.